Every day, we humans communicate with each other. We express ideas and emotions. We speak with words, movements, and writing. So it goes without saying, communication is a vital component of life. However, there's one form of communication that I found to be the most interesting: art. I've heard before of art helping discover numerous different things, and I also knew a little bit about its history, but never before had I learned about how important it was to us. But researching art alone was like throwing a rock into a pond and then having to jump into the pond and find it in less than a minute. Virtually impossible. Art is a universal topic. Anyone can make art, and anyone can try to explain it, but everyone's view is different. So, I decided to focus on what makes art good, the connections it has to our brain, and how art has benefited us as humans, which led to the creation of my research question. How has a better understanding of art benefited us humans? Rooted in evolution, there is a need for communication, and thus a need for art. The year is 1940. In France, a boy named Marcel Ravadat would set out with his dog, Robot, to investigate an uprooted tree. But as he and Robot investigated, they would find what looked to be a passageway. With 3 friends, Marcel would venture into the passageway again, and to him and his friends' surprise, they would discover what looked to be paintings on the wall. That passageway was actually a cave. These paintings were extremely elaborate and displayed things like animals, humans, and abstract figures. The meaning of the paintings are still up to debate, with many historians and artists proposing different explanations, but the age of the cave is agreed to be around 17,000 years old. The discovery of the Lascaux caves proved that art has been around ever since the Neolithic period. Art is taken apart in showing the social views and understandings of people at the time. Looking back at art from all kinds of time periods, we can find social trends impacting the main art produced and styles used. The Rococo era, years 1700 through 1770, embraced softer and more elegant paintings, mainly categorized by delicate and meticulous brushstrokes and common themes of naturalism. Some notable artists of the Rococo era are François Boucher, Jean-Baptiste Perronneau, and Jean-Honoré Fragonard. Rococo paintings today display extreme attention to detail and the luxury that many nobles and aristocrats had at the time. As for right now, we're not in a specific art movement. However, certain popular art styles have become prominent, one of the most well-known being modernism. Modernism gained popularity during the late 19th century and rose in popularity again during the 20th century. One of the most prominent themes of modernism is the rejection of realism in the art style, with many artists instead focusing on ideas like abstraction or toying with new techniques. One example of modern art is Jackson Pollock's Convergence. Convergence is 2 paintings in one, with it originally being a canvas covered in black before becoming a painting with vibrant strings of paint slashed across. The vibrant colors clash with the extremely deep black, creating stunning visuals. The underlayer of the piece is blended in some parts, with the original black still peeking out. The vibrant, distinct splatters tie the piece together. The painting was made to serve as a representation of Pollock's subconscious. Now, the idea of subconscious is fairly common in modernism, with it even coming to a point of paintings with the same theme being ignored. However, what makes Pollock's paintings stand out is the intensity and vibrance of the colors and the unique composition of the painting. The piece is a representation of all blended and overarching thoughts that the mind can have at a time, and serves to showcase Pollock's internalized emotions. To put in short, the piece is stunning, with it representing ideas like anger, frustration, and confusion, while also having beauty and flow. When examining art, there are many different things that we can see with just our eyes, but the main idea of art is the meaning behind the creation. Because of this, in order to better understand art, many philosophers have stepped forward to show their perspectives on the topic. John Dewey's book, Artist's Experience, is widely respected in the art community for its unique take on the creation of art. John Dewey believes that expression is a much larger concept when it comes to art, but that a piece shouldn't be based all around it. He believes that expression in art should instead naturally spill over during the creation process. However, not every philosopher agrees with this. R.J. Collingwood believes that expression has a vital role in art, in imaginative understanding effective profiles in the expression of emotion in art. Robert Hopkins takes a look into Collingwood's theories surrounding art and explains how they have developed over time. Robert points out that Collingwood believes that expression should lead to the creation of art, as art is based around communicating your emotions. Collingwood also proposed the theory that the brain is made to process information in stages, starting with broad ideas and emotions, and refining them and adding information, making thinking more complex as the information travels through the stages, which will be discussed further in the next section. Now, it should be mentioned that R.J. Collingwood's claims are fairly debated, just like many. However, the difference between R.J. Collingwood's claims and John Dewey's claims just show how varying the concept of art is. Now, let's focus on a more straightforward topic, how the brain processes art. When it comes to art, we know that art is rooted in communication, which means that art does have some relation to the frontal lobe. But art doesn't just have relation to the frontal lobe. There are other parts of the brain that play vital roles in the processing of art, two of the most prominent being the amygdala and the hippocampus. The amygdala deals mainly with facial identification and your response to different emotions, while the hippocampus deals with identifying and processing your environment. Coming back to the cave art mentioned before, the amygdala was found to be activated and mainly used when creating the paintings. It should also be mentioned, in the field of neurology, R.J. Collingwood's theory about the brain processing has been found to be correct. The brain is modular, meaning it's made up of different parts which deal with different jobs. When information regarding art is processed, it starts out as one broad piece of information, and as the information travels to the brain, the information is processed and becomes more complex. Thanks to our new understanding of art and how it applies to the brain, we can use this information in order to explain certain paintings and what drives people to them. Starting off with a painting everyone knows, let's talk about Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. If there's one notable feature about the Mona Lisa, it is her subtle and infamous smile, with it changing depending on the angle. One of the most accepted theories used to explain this phenomenon was proposed by Margaret Livingstone. Livingstone believes that the reasoning behind the Mona Lisa's changing smile is due to the brain and its tendency to switch between two versions of vision, central and peripheral. Because of this, depending on the angle in which you look at the painting, your brain may change from focusing on the finer details to focusing on the broader painting. It is believed that the extreme attention to detail is what caused this phenomenon to happen. Another famous painting which had ties to neuroscience is Edvard Munch's, sorry if I butchered that, The Scream of Nature, or The Scream. Vague drawings of the face was found to cause higher amounts of activity in the amygdala, due to the vague image of the face. Now, in order to understand why the amygdala can get so activated by this painting, you need to know a little bit more about the brain. In the brain, there are various types of cells that respond to different things. In the amygdala, there are master face cells, which deal with the identification of faces. In pieces of art that have vague faces, or faces with differing perspectives, the master face cells can become overstimulated as they try to process where the face is or which face is which. The field of abstract art also has a similar effect, with the master face cells often being confused if the painting has one face or multiple faces, or multiple angles of the face. Because of this, the master face cells switch between different ways of processing, causing the mentioned hyperactivity. Now, art doesn't just serve as catalyst for emotion. As you may have learned, art has connections to our brain, and in some cases helped us learn about the brain. Art has helped the medical field in numerous cases as well, serving as a form of treatments and experimenting with how our eyes perceive things. For the first example of how art has helped us learn more about the medical field, we're going to examine song and Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a brain degenerative disorder which starts in the hippocampus, which you may have known from before is heavily associated with art and the processing of locations and music. During a presentation with Science and Cocktails, John O'Keefe brought up a situation where neuroscientists noticed that patients with Alzheimer's that had deteriorated the hippocampus were still able to remember and process songs. Using brain tracking technology, the neuroscientists were able to notice that there were other areas in the brain that showed heightened activity when it came to remembering song. This led to scientists to conclude that the brain has backup systems, which can help process information when another area has damage. Art has also helped aid in our understanding of ideas, such as how the retinas work. As Meng-Fei Huang points out in the Neuroscience of Art, in the 1960s, an art genre called op art, short for optical art, would help scientists better understand how the retina reacts and perceives images depending on how light affects the image. Art has also benefited patients with PTSD as a form of therapy. In some cases of PTSD, the bronchial region of the brain can shut down due to trauma. In an interview with Aspen Institute, Susan Magsamen brought up how Melissa Walkers, the founder of Creative Forces, was able to use digital arts in order to help reactivate and heal the bronchial region in patients with severe PTSD. Along with this, in the same interview, Susan Maximin brought up a case of a firefighter with PTSD named Aaron Miller, and how painting allowed him to express his trauma and emotions that he had from the fire and helped him recover. Through research, I was able to find out a lot of interesting things about art. I learned about how art has impacted science, how science has impacted our understanding of art, and heard about all kinds of viewpoints when it comes to art. However, it should be noted that never once was it stated that there was a right way to do art. Never once did any source say that art had to have certain requirements in order to classify as art. Sure, John Dewey and R.H. Collingwood said that good art needed to have certain qualities, but never did they state that lack of those qualities took away from something being art. Never once did the cavemen think about spilling over expression or using a medium to express when creating their cave paintings, that paintings in the Lascaux caves are still considered art. In fact, just looking around, you can find art. The picture on your phone of your friend, the doodles on your math assignment, all of those things can be considered art. But by understanding art to a deeper extent, we can solve unique problems and learn about things that we would never otherwise been exploring. By taking a deeper look in art, we can take a deeper look into all kinds of things, whether it be the human mind or learning about how the retinas work. Art has a much deeper impact than everyone may think. So the next time someone calls art useless, or your parents tell you to be a doctor instead of a painter, tell them about how beneficial and interesting the field of art can actually be.